ask, you know, in the divination section in Axis Mundi, the students are going to have the opportunity to look at a number of different systems, including the runes. And I was just wondering what suggestions you had for people, just as they were getting started with working with the runes, magically thinking about, you know, especially reclaiming witches, you know, that might want to deepen their work with the runes, just some suggestions on where they might start.
How to play.
Right, and where we started when Scott and I did this for the first time in Vancouver is that what we ask people to do is to totally forget, if they knew anything, about what the meanings of these things allegedly were, and to just start looking at the shapes and drawing the shapes and react to the shapes. And another really good exercise with that is trying to see them in nature. And then in terms of a divination system, the easiest one I find to work with, and the one that I personally use, is one based on the Norns, where you're asking a question and you get a reading of the present, where we're at, you know, the past, where we're coming from, and the future, what the outcome is going to be, what's going to happen next. And working with that when you're at the point where you're beginning to attach meaning to these things is probably good. The other thing that I always try to emphasize when teaching this is don't get hung up on names and pronunciations. Because if we know two things with certainty, it's one, the names we have are probably not right. And the second is, if we went back to the Viking era and tried talking to someone in the language we believe they spoke, they'd look at us like we were idiots, you know, because that probably isn't what they sounded like. And there are people who insist on a very strict pronunciation or form of stuff. And if that works for you, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't be afraid to change things or do them in your own way. I mean, the language you're speaking today that we're talking with here is a derivation of the language of the people who spoke these things. I mean, it's got lots of words added in from other cultures, but sometimes you hit one of these meanings that is so unchanged that it just gobsmacks. An excellent example of that is, you know, in the Adun myth, there's the giantess Skade.
Yes.
Well, in Anglo-Saxon, her name is Scathe. And that word means the same thing today as it did then, because in the Prose Edda they say, and what her name means is danger, destruction. So, you know, there's a lot of carry through. This stuff is running in your blood. One thing we should do is the days of the week.
All right. I like that it's running in our blood, though.
Yeah. And you know, in terms of, are these ancestors of our blood? Let's say something about that, because people from other cultures kind of say, well, you know, my people are from Africa, or my people are from India, or my people are from the Middle East. Two things. One, these guys got everywhere. I mean, there's literally no place on earth that they probably didn't go and interchange ideas with people, let alone DNA. And the second thing is that when we were working with this the first time, I asked Scott Mist, okay, Scott, how many ancestors have I got if you go back a lousy 1,000 years back to the Viking era? And we got a number that had like 27 zeros behind it. You know, everybody's ultimately related to everybody else. But just the fact that we're speaking this language is a tie-in with that. Let's do the days of the week real quick. Okay, Sunday is Anglo-Saxon Sunna's day. Sunna is the goddess who is the sun. And in Northern culture, she's portrayed as a young girl, and there's that whole Christmas thing they do, what is it, St. Lucy or St. Lucia or something like that, where the girl dresses up in white and has the loaf of bread that represents the sun and all that kind of stuff, which is, of course, the rebirth of the sun at solstice. Okay, so Sunday is Sunna's Day. Monday is Moon Day, Mani's Day in Anglo-Saxon. Mani is the man in the moon. And he has two companions whose names roughly correspond to Jack and Jill, whose cruel parents kept them up all night drawing water from a well. And he rescued them, and they live with Mani on the moon now. So just like J.R.R. Tolkien's Hobbits, in this cosmology, the sun is feminine, the moon is masculine. Okay, Tuesday retains its original Anglo-Saxon pronunciation. Tues is the Anglo-Saxon version of the god Tyr, who's the god of absolute justice. And Tyr's rune is basically a shaft with a spearhead on top of it, which was used as a victory incantation. And by the way, to this day, all property of the British War Department is marked with the Tyr rune, which they call the broad arrow. So how old is that? Wednesday is Woden's Day. Thursday, of course, is Thor's Day. And Friday is Freyja's Day. Freyja being the queen of sexuality, reproduction, and is basically one of the things I should mention is there are two sets of deities. There are the younger gods, who are all the guys like Odin and Thor, and are the masculine patriarchal guys. And then there are the older earth spirits, who are the Vanir, who are the elder gods, and the chief among them is Freyja. We don't know a whole lot about Freyja because it was systematically destroyed by the Christian church, but Freyja is traditionally in places like Germany, the queen of the witches. And the luckiest day of the week to get married on is Friday because it's Freyja's Day. And then Saturday is Saturn's Day, and for some reason that one has picked up the classical god Saturn. Now, is he an older northern god? Probably. Do we know what his name is? No, we don't at this point. But every time we use those days of the week, and by the way, in the Christian period, there was a concerted effort to change the names of the days of the week to something much more suitable for people who were Christian. And people actually died to preserve the names of the days of the week. They were that important. There's a wonderful old story about one of the goddess processions around the fields in France in the Middle Ages. And the priest came out and lectured the people that, you know, they were Christians and they shouldn't do that anymore. And the head man of the village took the priest aside and said, "Look, Father, this is all very nice for you, and it's fine for you to believe that. But you know what? If we don't do this, the crops don't grow, and we starve, and then we die. So go find something else to do, please." Important survivals in people's lives. And that's something we often lose sight of, too. Okay.